Have you ever looked at the housing market and just felt like the math doesn't add up? You're not alone. Prices keep climbing, rent feels completely out of reach, and owning a home, well, that seems to get harder and harder every single year. Today, we're going to dig past the usual explanations and look at a really powerful idea from researcher Justice Uche that might just change the way you see this whole problem.
I mean, this is the big question, right? You see construction cranes all over the city, and we're always told the solution is to just build more. But for so many of us, the dream of an affordable place to live just feels further away than ever. It's a super frustrating paradox, and it's the mystery we're going to try and solve today.
All right, so where do we even begin? Let's start with the usual suspects. We all know the common arguments about the housing crisis, but as you're about to see, they really don't tell the whole story.
For years, the story we've been told is super simple. It's just supply and demand. Build more houses, they say, and prices will naturally come down. But the research that Justice Uche highlights points to a really stubborn fact. We've been trying that. Decades of policies aimed at boosting supply haven't actually solved the core problem of affordability. So clearly, something else is going on under the hood. And this right here, this is our first major clue. The source argues that the problem isn't just about the market doing its thing. It's about a deep, structural conflict that's baked right into the rules of the game, what the author calls a core administrative contradiction. So get this, the problem isn't that the system is broken, it's that it was built with a fundamental flaw from the very beginning.
So, what is this hidden contradiction? Well, it has a name, and it is the absolute key to understanding this entire issue. It's a concept called housing dualism. Let's break down what that actually means.
Okay, so what is housing dualism? At its core, the idea is this. Our entire system, from government policies to financial markets, is trying to make housing do two completely opposite things at the exact same time. And that's where all the tension and all the problems come from.
Now, this slide lays out the conflict so clearly. On one hand, we desperately need housing to be social infrastructure, a stable, affordable, safe place for our lives and our communities. For that to work, prices need to be predictable and contained. But on the other hand, we treat housing as a wealth asset. For millions of families, it's their biggest investment, and for that to work, prices need to constantly go up. You see the problem? You simply cannot have both. You can't have stable, affordable prices and skyrocketing investment returns in the same exact house.
So here's the crucial point. When you force a system to do two opposite things, one of them has to win out. And in our housing market, the goal of wealth-generating asset has consistently, and I mean consistently, beaten out the goal of social infrastructure. The need for home values to go up and up has just become way more important than the need for people to have an affordable place to live.
So how exactly does the system end up prioritizing wealth over shelter? This isn't some accident. The research points to 4 specific mechanisms built right into our government and financial systems that make this happen over and over again.
This table basically lays out the blueprint. First up, you've got policy incentives. Think of things like the mortgage interest deduction. It's a huge tax subsidy that helps people buy more expensive homes, which just pushes prices up for everybody. Second, regulatory design. I'm talking about restrictive zoning that makes it illegal to build apartments in many neighborhoods, which artificially creates scarcity and drives up values. Third, there's fiscal dependence. Our local towns and cities literally rely on rising property taxes to pay for schools, roads, and firefighters, so they have a built-in reason to want prices to climb higher. And finally, institutional absence. We just don't have a big, robust system of non-market housing, things like public housing or community land trusts that would be protected from all this speculation.
And this chart, this is what it all leads to. This is the real-world impact of putting housing as an asset first. You can just see how home prices have totally disconnected from what people actually earn. The asset is performing great, but the social infrastructure part is failing miserably because our wages just can't keep up. It's not even close.
And this brings us to what might be the single most important idea in this whole explainer. The affordability crisis isn't some random market accident that we can't control. No, it is the predictable, logical result of a system that was designed to produce exactly this outcome. It's a failure of policy design.
But here's the good news. If the problem is one of design, that means we have the power to redesign it. The research doesn't just stop at diagnosing the problem. It also points to a structural solution, a way forward.
The proposed solution is something called a dual-track design. It's actually a pretty elegant idea. Instead of forcing one system to do two opposite things, you create two separate systems that run side by side. On one track, you have your market housing, but with some smart regulations to keep prices from going crazy. And on the other track, you build a really strong non-market system for permanently affordable housing. Homes that are taken out of the speculative game for good. This quote really gets to the heart of the whole thing. It's a total shift in thinking. The argument is that we need to let homes be homes first and foremost. If we want to build wealth, fine, but let's use other tools for that, like retirement funds or the stock market, tools that don't depend on making a basic human need more and more expensive for everyone else.
So let's just quickly recap the big ideas. The main takeaway is that our housing crisis isn't a market failure, it's a policy design failure. That failure has a name, housing dualism, which is this fundamental conflict between a home as shelter and a home as an asset. Our system has been built to favor the asset, and a way out could be a dual-track system that finally separates those two competing goals.
And that leaves us with this final question to chew on. This whole framework gives you a new lens to look at your own city, your own town. It asks us to really think about what would change, what kind of policies we would fight for, and what our communities could become if we all made a conscious choice to put the need for shelter first. What would actually happen if we decided to treat homes as homes?